So I wanted to understand, like, what am I paying into? So that was why it was big for me.
That was a great thing. I like how you're saying what you're paying into. What are you investing into? So, just as your money works for you when you're investing, you need to know what your money is working when you putting into your
Daddy, can I
family.
play the music now? But this way, go.
You know that I got love for my kinfolk, my blood. Through the thick and thin, we hit no matter.
This is me and Daddy here, and
Okay.
Jenny also. And we're here to teach you something, founded by So Your Grind. And goes a little something like this. Take it over, Daddy.
Welcome to Family Abide, Show Your Grind. This is a podcast series highlighting lessons learned by the hard knocks and by grace. My name is Robert E. Metzger Jr. and my co-host is Divine Lee, aka D. Lee. Our podcast intersects between the culture, faith, family, and finance.
Okay. Welcome back to Family by So Your Grind. It is 2025 and the first year on the yard for 2025, and it is going to be not only an audio version, but we're also doing visual. Someone said just turn the camera on and start doing it. So here we are. And I have my co-host here for the yard, Miss Charity CB. How are you doing?
Pew, pew. Okay, I wanted sound effects. I'm great.
You're great.
Feeling good, feeling great.
All right,
How are
welcome.
you?
Welcome back. So Divine's getting pretty good at working the board. We need to make sure to add some more sounds on there. So we'll make sure to do that. So one of the things that we want to talk about for this new year is our end of year budgeting. So we actually did that last year and it was a first. I think it was a first. And we did that on our way to Lauryn Hill concert. And great concert, by the way. That was the last concert performed by the Fugees
In
in
Philadelphia.
Philly, Philadelphia. And what we realized, what did you realize? Because that was a big thing for you. So one of the big things I would say is that when we do our
Wait, how you ask me a question and then go
yes, I just wanted to preface it. It was a big thing for you, but just go ahead and why don't you tell everybody why it was a big thing for you though?
in terms of doing a end of the year budget?
End of the year budget as far as a joint budget, looking at the joint finances.
For me, because I am largely out of the picture when it comes to the budget, just because I don't necessarily want to know. I think Robert knows that I kind of don't want to know. And then when I do know, then I kind of like, okay, what are we going to do about this? So for me, it was a big thing because I was like, Charity, you have to make yourself understand what's going on with the budget, how it's working, how it's not working, where funds are going, how different things are being allocated, just so you know, because a lot of times we have things in the budget or we pay for things and then Robert is like, hey, I need money for this. And I'm just like, hey, here you go, here's some money. So I wanted to understand, like, what am I paying into? So that was why it was big for me.
That was a great thing. I like how you're saying what you're paying into. What are you investing into? So, just as your money works for you when you're investing, you need to know what your money is working when you putting into your family. So, one of the things you might not know this, but you one of the major motivations for Family Abide as far as wanting to
I
empowering
do know
our
because I am your latest and your greatest inspiration.
empowering our daughters with money because I want them to feel comfortable having those conversations. And sometimes you feel comfortable having those conversations, and sometimes you don't. Actually, you feel comfortable having those conversations when everything is in the black and everything works out, and we have surplus money and we have margin.
When has that ever been true?
No,
Even- when have that when has that been a reality?
well, no, I think that's a
I think for myself, because I am used to, I think that's what it is. Because the end of the year, and I've told you this, at the end of the year for myself, I like to close everything out. Like I need to know what my balances are on my credit cards. And I like to go into the new year with a fresh slate. Like everything needs to be at zero. And more recently, that hasn't been the case. I haven't been able to close out the year at zero, going into the year where I'm like, okay, this is my income and this is how I can spend my money. Especially because our family income hasn't necessarily been such that I could do that for myself.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, you feel comfortable, which is not a bad thing, but you feel a sense of empowerment when you are able to close out the year with everything being zeroed out, especially all your debts, and you're able to enter the new year. But it becomes very challenging to you if that is not the case. And with a family of five now, with daycare, with mortgages, with aftercare expenses, and car notes and summer camps, that's not always the cleanest case. And um, we're working towards that. But even with that not being the case, we're definitely still investing. We're still setting aside funds. And I think the biggest part of budgeting is really going back and looking at what you're spending. So I think we do a good job with allocating. Hey, this is how much we should be spending for food. This is what we should be spending on daycare. This is what we kind of should be spending on a mortgage. And we have multiple accounts. So one of the things that we would say for not everybody, some people like to join accounts, but we have multiple accounts. I think one of the reasons why we have multiple accounts is because I always, for me, I feel a sense of comfort knowing, hey, the rent money is by itself and nothing's going to get pulled out of the rent money besides the rent money. Um, because when you have a joint account and everything's getting pulled, sometimes things can get pulled for which may not be as important. So she has a separate account. I have a separate account. We have,
Which is interesting because I also sometimes I'm like, well, maybe we should just put everything into one account because there so often it happens where you're like, we need to pay this off, put some money in this account. And I'll be looking at my money,
mm,
even though it's ours, but it's in my account. And I'm like, dang, it's my money. I got to put it into this other account. Like now I'm not going to have this money for whatever I would want to do with it. Usually it's nothing, but it won't be there.
so I think that's been a challenge. And I don't think we're special. I don't think we're unique in the sense that a lot of Americans and a lot of people around the world face the same challenge. We might be able to verbalize it here. We, I think we do a decent job of handling it. I wouldn't say we do a great job. What do you think?
Of handling what?
Our financial communication.
I think I'm comfortable, but we're so different financially. And I'm trying to think because I think toward the end of last year, I asked a very specific question. I can't remember what it was because I am such a zero person. Like everything looks good to me when it's nice and clean. We don't have any debts and we have money to do the things that we want to do. You, on the other hand, you don't mind debt. Debt doesn't seem to bother you. So I believe I asked you a question like, how are you able to function knowing that we have a certain amount of debt?
Well, and I think that goes back to empowering and having good understanding of what the debt is, what are the specifics about the debt. And I think one of the things, so just to give reference, the end of 2023 going to 2024, we had about $2,000 on our joint credit card, which you,
For me, that was too much.
that
I
was,
was like,
that was so much. So we had
how
$2,000.
we gonna pay off this $2,000? Because also I feel like that also means if you can't pay off $2,000, that means how much is in your savings? Because if you had savings and you'd be able to be like, okay, $2,000, please, let's pay it off.
Mhm. And so now this year, at the end of 2024, going into 2025, we had a deficit of
Oh, you're
$4,000.
being open about this. Okay. You're just putting it on the table.
This is red table. Uh, but no, we had a deficit in our joint account, right?
And then what did I say to you about that? I said, okay, I'm sorry. I asked you a question. Then I answered it. Go ahead. What did I say?
It's like, is every year we're gonna just keep on multiplying our levels of debt on our credit card?
So if,
Yeah.
if we continue at this pace, every year we're going to add $2,000 of debt. And that's great because we've been married at that point 11 years. And then we only had $2,000 worth of credit card debt,
Joint credit card debt.
joint credit. I don't have any credit cards.
Oh, isn't that nice? So,
But I'm saying, so I mean, we've done a good job. I mean, we also have 3 kids now, but um, but it was like, okay, so if we keep going at this pace, every year we're going to accrue $2,000 worth of debt, and so where does that leave us?
so that's when it gets kind of a little bit more complicated. So our liabilities will change every year. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you continue to accrue. I think what happens, or what might be deceiving to you, is what's put onto the joint credit card and what's not. So, for example, all of our childcare expenses, which actually we're fortunate enough to be able to put on a credit card, and get actually cash back for that, is put on a Discover card. So that's happens to be my card. So you don't really see those expenses, do you? And you don't really
No,
ask.
I do not. No, I don't. I feel like if I'm being interrogated. No.
So, but those that really should be a joint. But the reason why um
Daycare doesn't take
daycare
marketing
only takes
space.
Discover. So that's I actually think that's a benefit, because if not, you would be paying cash money every week, and the cash for daycare actually was more, but right now we pay 441 a week.
He is really spilling the beans.
We spend 440 a week
A
for
week.
a week for
We've been doing this for 8 years now.
that's actually only for one child,
This is for,
because the other children, actually you pay, actually we split that. The other children we pay aftercare for. But at one point we were paying for multiple kids to go to daycare. So you weren't really seeing that, but actually on our
I mean, I know I didn't need to see it. Look,
on our daycare bill,
I'd be stressed.
we have zeroed out. So on daycare we're good, but on our joint expenses, um, we could do better. So, but one of the things that actually surprised you as well, how much interest did we have on those accounts when you kind of went through and looked at
I
it?
can't remember.
But just
I
approximately.
did, but I did. We should have showed them the receipts because
Shit.
I printed out everything. I highlighted stuff.
So I think
I was ordered. I was like, wait, what is this payment? But it was about, was it like less than $20?
it was less than $100.
That's I won't check.
So I
Per
think
month?
no, for like
For like, okay, that's what I'm saying. I was saying per month.
yeah.
Per month, it was way less than 20, because every month we didn't get charged interest.
Yeah, so she was actually very surprised at the amount of interest that we actually paid or had accrued over the course of the year. And obviously you want to be able to leverage certain amount of credit. So right now we just had a promotional officer. It was like 2.99% um, credit, obviously per year. So that's APY. So that breaks out to a very minuscule amount of actual interest that we're being accrued. So that goes through about May or April. So yes, we are over leveraged right now, but it's not at a high cost. So we're not paying 20% on our interest. If we had to, we could liquidate some things and pay it off. But since it's such a low,
And what's the benefit of that? Because I was I was considering that for myself too. I'm like, I could pay off some things.
that's a great question. Hopefully, the reason why the way is like, hopefully we might come into some money. I know you be coming into some money.
Don't be telling all my secrets.
You be- No,
Because people don't know how much I'm making. They don't need to.
yeah, but what I'm saying is,
He's the breadwinner.
what I'm saying is that Even like with tax returns. So if we get a tax return, even if it's nothing crazy, but say we get a tax return for 2000, right? So that knocks out some of that deficit that we had, um, and we didn't have to come out the pocket and to pay for that. So I think that's some of the reasons why you would potentially hold off on eliminating debt and preserving some saving if you can.
So I believe it was the end of 2023 that you were like, open this high yield savings account. And so this is just from my perspective, why I don't pay off certain things. So I have this high yield savings account that I have some savings in. And I'm like, well, I could use this money to pay off like our love sack. Like I can pay it off. But I'm like, it's earning interest there. And we have an interest-free credit card for the love sack. I'm like, well, does it really benefit me to pay off the love sack?
And those are the conversations you have. So last year we actually made the largest joint purchase that we've ever made outside of purchasing a home or a car, which is crazy to say. We bought a couch.
Because I wanted a love sack so
and,
badly.
and the love sack, and
I sleep on it
we
every
got
day.
at least a 32, 33, 34% discount off of the love sack, and we got 0% for 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years. So the question is, do you pay that off? If you're in the Ramsey school, you pay that off immediately.
If you're in the Ramsey school, you do not get a credit card. You pay cash.
That's right. If you
Financial Peace University, we went through that too. We did all of it.
so if you're in the Ramsey school, but if we want to take an opportunity to pay off um, the love sack and still preserve your interest in your high yield savings account, you're actually coming out ahead. But you need to have a certain minimum amount of financial literacy in order to navigate that well.
And if you care about your credit score, then I mean you're gonna get a hit. So,
Yeah, but
and if the credit's bad,
and you gotta have discipline with all this type of stuff too. So
it's like a game of chess. I don't know how to play chess.
see,
But it is like very much so cerebral in how you can move money. Like you Robert said, you have to be disciplined to do it because I think if you're not disciplined and you don't want to take the time to think about it, then it's just too much work.
it's a lot. It can be a lot of work. So I think those are some of the challenges that people. It's much easier to swipe than to plan it out, and
Or to be without.
or to be without. And
Like we could just get a couch from the thrift store.
we could. It wouldn't be quite as comfortable. It wouldn't be. It might not last. Definitely wouldn't last as long. We actually put
It
our
was
old we put our old couch at the thrift store.
yeah, we
So somebody got a really good
donated
deal
it.
with that. These are all choices that people make every day. And these are the conversations that we have as a family to decide what's important and what's not important. This is another thing. So it's interesting. We're gonna talk to our kids about it. And it's funny, my kids was like, is the hot water on? And so we had an issue with like, at times where the hot water was acting up.
We
And
had a leak in the hot water heater
yeah,
because you
and
putting everything on the table now.
yeah, but we got it fixed. But during certain times, we had to turn the hot water off or it would be leaking. So the question then becomes, hey, do you want to spend $1,200, $1,500 um to get it fixed, or 3,000 or 4,000 to get it replaced? Or do you kind of develop a mentality where, hey, we're just going to turn the hot water off and on when we need it? And, these are real conversations that people have. And, sometimes I don't think that makes you broke. I don't think that makes you um, any
Well,
less
I remember
prepared.
doing that as a child. Like something can happen to you, a household appliance at any time. The blessing is that Robert had the know and wherewithal to figure out how to turn it on and off. I mean, it wasn't that difficult because at one point the girls started doing it. Like, I'm gonna go turn the heat. So I think, yeah, I mean, it was beneficial. Like everybody learned something.
They learn. But somebody's like, well, we passed the stage in life where we got to be turning the hot water off and on. When we gonna have it fixed,
It
Bob?
wasn't me. I don't know where he heard this.
But that could be a conversation that can be had, and it would be problematic. So these are things that, hey, do we want to spend $1,200 to get something fixed, or is this something that we can manage until we kind of get some resources to pay for those items?
This was supposed to be about the Christmas budget, I thought.
Yeah, it was, but I think we're going to get to that. But I think it also comes down to the year-end budgeting. If you can get a chance, I think one thing that I do want to praise my wife on is really she was able to go through, and this is 2 years in a row, and this is something that I don't think is easy for
I
her.
think it's a reoccurring thing now.
Yeah, and I do think it's necessary is to go back and actually look with the critical eye on everything that
Oh,
you
you want to
spent.
know what surprised me the most? Do you remember what surprised me most about what I saw?
I think I know.
Go ahead. What is it?
Is it it's like a purchase? Is like how much we spend at different places?
It's a retail place.
So basically, actually, I think it's a top 5 store. So, I would,
It's embarrassing.
I would, I would, I would, I'm gonna put my claim on it. It's a top 5 store. Macy's.
Devon said it too.
Yeah,
It
but
wasn't Macy's
no,
because
I
you're
know.
confusing people.
Yeah, but CVS.
CVS, I believe, and I can't. Did we throw everything away? Because I calculated how much money we spent at certain places. And CVS, Robert spent, because I don't really shop at CVS. Robert spent so much money
It's household expenses. So,
at CVS.
it was over $1,000.
I don't remember.
It was over
but
$1,000.
he blocked it
It
out
was over $1,000 for the year.
for the year
And
at CVS.
she was like, "Do we really need to spend $1,000
$1,000
at CVS over the course of the year?" And actually, what we could do, because a lot of those CVS items
We
are
could use our benefits.
FSA,
See,
so
we ain't even doing it right.
we be not
We
doing
gotta
it
use our benefits.
we're not doing it right. So that was something else that we're gonna start. We did a little bit more strategic.
Don't give it too much hits because it's gonna be long.
Okay, yeah. So
We'll write it down.
we got a lot of stuff coming up for
See, you get distracted.
yeah, we got a lot of stuff coming up for the upcoming year that we'll talk about. But I think the main lesson that we
We
wanted,
can talk about what you were supposed to talk about, but it's
yeah,
okay.
we got to talk about the budget. But the main lesson that we
We
need,
talked about the budget. We can talk about the holidays, but it's okay.
yes,
We'll make another video about that. This getting long. People don't want to listen to us ramble.
no. So you need to reconcile your expenses over the course of the year. And she went through, she looked at it. She's like, "Hey, what is this AACPS? Oh, this is
That's lunch.
that's lunch money." And you don't take account how much lunch money is getting paid. It's not crazy,
And that's the thing.
but
It's so
adds
interesting.
up.
And this is because Devon would say, not charity, she would say, Mommy, don't talk about this. My daughter is almost 8 and she tells me what not to talk about. So I'm not going to make this a thing. But like basic everyday people need help with basic everyday things. And I don't think people realize that enough. Like daycare, Robert already said, $450 a week. A week
For one.
for one.
That's with 10% off.
And that's not even top tier.
That's not top tier.
That's not even top tier.
That's
That's like
mid-tier.
medium.
Mid-tier.
You know.
Mid-tier. Definitely not the worst, but not nowhere near
What does Gary with the T say?
on the high end.
That's not even the high end. It's definitely not the low end, but it's not even the high end. And so lunch, we commute to work almost 2 hours a day for me. And so coming home, cooking dinner, and then making a lunch, not feasible. Robert was the one who was like, we are not making them lunch. We are going to pay for lunch. And I don't know how often you put money into their account because they be swiping for lunch now. Like they don't have to pay, which I think is a benefit, but they also don't understand like how much how much lunch costs. So those are things that's like we make good money. We really do. We are blessed to be able to afford everything that we have with little to no debt. But basic everyday people need help with basic everyday things. And I don't think people, especially people without kids, understand the level of support that is necessary to raise one child, two child,
Yeah,
children, three
I don't
children.
even want to dismiss people because it's
Because then being with yourself, that's a finance too.
a lot of
Budgeting yourself is a lot. It's really a lot. It requires a lot more discipline probably
mm,
to when you don't have
mm,
kids. Because when you do have kids, you got somebody like, look,
mm.
where's his money? But I mean, and I'm not negating that, but I'm saying that there are some people who don't understand that, when families become larger, outgoing finances also increase.
Yeah, the economies of scale, maybe the past, you like that term, the economies of scale may have worked to your benefit in the past, but it doesn't always work to your benefit in current USA suburbia market. So it doesn't really get cheaper the more children you get. It just
I feel
continues.
like, you're new to this podcast thing. Somebody's going to use that clip of what I said and be like, oh, y'all hear what she's saying about people with no kids. And so my apologies. Thank you, Robert, for being like people without kids. No, okay,
No,
people without
yeah,
kids
because
require discipline too.
I think the
It's a
money
lot.
struggles are real.
It's real for
I think
everybody.
it's real if you are a new couple and you're trying to purchase a house for the first time. I think it's real if you are individual and you just got to college and you really haven't had any discussion about
Everybody has their own
yeah
financial
budgeting and you going Uber Eats and you're
issues.
doing whatever. It's just there's a lot of challenges and
Like, when do you cook? When do you eat out?
I don't think it's getting easier. And so you have to have more conversations. You have to be smarter about it. So,
Grubhub and Uber Eats is getting people too. I know I'm going on a tangent. I'm just saying
yeah,
because I know single people or people that are by themselves and those budgets get bigger and bigger. So
yeah, and sometimes, well, I need. But actually, I heard, and that episode should be coming out soon. Um, and I think some of the things that really is like, hey, you got to invest in your future. You have to minimize debt, and you have to live your life like you have to do that like your life depended on it. And a lot of times we don't. We just like, oh, it's a nice thing to do not to have that. It's a nice thing to do to potentially invest. It's a nice thing to do. But what I really want is to eat right now. Cheesecake. So
you're trying to put me because I do a Grubhub or Uber Eats real quick too.
so I think that
DoorDash.
what happens is that we have to develop that discipline. And also
Y'all
what
can sponsor us
we'll
too.
talk about that next. And even the discipline to eat correct is high. We're doing a Daniel fast right now, and it's not easy to, hey, these are the things that we have to do to eat, and it's not quick. It's not something that it's things that you have to think about. You have to be diligent. You have to plan, but that's a good life skill to have, and it's a good life skill to have whether we're working out or when you're communicating with other people or when you just get married. Hey, this means work. Marriage means work. So hopefully, um, this will be a good way to kind of start off the session and start off the year. Sometimes people say, "Oh man, they look like they got it together." Well,
Who us?
maybe yeah.
Oh, no, I don't know about people.
So
I
I
don't know
think
about us.
I think I th- I think that this kind of shows like, hey, we still are having those conversations. You
Have
know,
to. And we actually on our calendar, we have a monthly, if not weekly, we have different meetings that we're supposed to have with one another that we never
we have a weekly calendar meeting to talk about finances.
to talk about anything.
Oh, we're talking about yeah, really about anything, and we
And we
probably do
don't
that.
do
We
that
probably do that about
every 6
once.
months.
Well, I bet once a quarter, once every. But well, hopefully we are making strides with that, and
I do have therapy tonight.
we will be working and moving forward. That's something else that we I mean, I thought it was a priority. Hopefully, you thought it was a priority, and we thought it was a priority together.
I thought it was a priority.
But I think what happens though is you have to commit to making something a priority, right? Because if you don't commit to making it a priority, then it's always the other person's responsibility.
He's trying to say something without trying to say something.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. If you make it a priority and I make it a priority, then it's our priority,
Mhm.
right? So we need to really be committed in saying that I believe it's a priority. You believe it's a priority, and then we believe it. Because sometimes we speak too easily.
It's like I do, you do, we do.
Yeah, I like that.
Mm.
Because, a lot of times people say, oh, we think, and we don't really think this. One person thinks it. So,
The next time we're going to do a spabet so we can make sure we stay on topic.
yeah. But I think this was a good first session of the yard for
How often
2025.
we going to do this? Because I like being on the yard, but Robert don't like to invite me. He's scared.
No,
Robert
we're
don't
gonna
like
do this more consistently. So hopefully, two things. Oh, there's another thing.
Is our baby crying?
I don't know. We'll keep that. That's good. That's good for one of the things. Two things we want to do. I wanted to make a goal for us, and I said, what I think the goal was. I wanted to communicate better.
Is that your goal? I haven't heard this yet.
Yeah, you remember when we was talking about? And he was like, "That's not a goal." But anyway,
I don't remember this
it's the
conversation.
very first day of the year, and I was like, "I want to go." But anyway, I think a goal would be, hey, we need to make sure that we go out on a date at least once a month.
It's like a dress up date. I have to like.
Yeah, a date, and then we also need to make sure just the two of us.
That's one of my favorite songs. He doesn't
And
know.
then also, we should have. I think this is actually a little bit therapeutic too. We need to make sure we could do this, and then that way, even though if we're not sitting down, we are sitting down and we're talking about certain things.
To hold hands more, shall we say?
Oh, I'm really surprised by that one.
Let's end it. We're gonna go on forever and ever and
We're
ever.
gonna leave that one alone. But
We'll talk about it next time.
I'm genuinely surprised.
Because
Well,
okay, never mind. We'll talk about it next time.
So,
Because he only wants to hold my hand when he's angry at me.
no, Daniel, hold your hand all the time.
Not in public though.
Okay. Yeah, I think the more people see, the more it becomes a little bit more accurate. So thank you very much. This is our first episode of Family Abide on the Yard for 2025, and we're just talking
Something
about
happened here.
faith, family, and financial the intersectionality of all three of those, and I think that's important. And we do all this while tithing. And
What?
That's important too.
That was so like
I threw that in there.
just didn't. No, take that out.
All right, I'll take
Yeah,
that out.
take that out.
That didn't.
It didn't go with. Yeah, you need something else needed to connect that.
Okay. Well, it's the intersection of faith, family, and finance. We'll
No,
make sure.
I'm gonna take that part out.
Okay.
Don't just throw that in there.
All right. But
You're like, why are you talking about tithing?
I think it's
No.
important.
It is important, but it's out of context.
It is out of context. Okay.
So
All right.
we didn't close out. Okay, we can at least have something. You're just gonna say bye. Okay, bye.
Time. On Family Abide, so Daddy, Charity, and Divine and Mommy. And Mommy.
Who's
And
got
Mommy.
my back?
I got your back.
Who's got my back?
Who got that swag?
Who got that swag?
I got that swag. I work it off.
Okay.
Purpose to make this life worth it. Through the joy and pain, you gotta keep searching. Living life, no regrets. Ain't no shoulda, woulda, coulda, had an altar. Still been a minute since I've been up at the altar. Every night.
Thank you for listening to Family Abide. Make sure to subscribe in order to catch future episodes. Family Abide is available on all your favorite podcast outlets. Remember, life is not just about family. It's not just about wealth. It's about building people and communities that endure without yielding. Always choose your abundance beyond insecurities, debts, and entanglements. The next generation is depending on it. Remember your purpose. Sow your grind and watch it grow. Thank you for joining us on Family Abide.
So you're crying.
Everybody need love. tired of my problems, I'm tired of the drama, I'm tired of the pressure from my mama and my papa. I'm tired of the pain, I'm tired of the rain, I'm tired of the hurting, I'm tired of the working, I'm tired of the struggling, I'm tired of the hustling. I'm so sick and tired of having nothing.
Jam, you got something to say?
But I have to say, I'll turn when
Yeah, I think it's good developing daddy-daughter relationships.